A big thanks to Gymnastic Planet for supporting this episode. Gymnastics is a challenging sport, but having the right tools in your gym bag really does help. Gymnastic Planet is a leading manufacturer and distributor of essential training kit. They provide the best quality products, including world-class speed equipment, handguards, and chalk. They also specialize in club services like venue design, maintenance, and installation. Backed by decades of experience, from competing and coaching to club management, Gymnastic Planet aims to help gymnasts succeed and enjoy their craft. If you'd like to find out more, visit gymnasticplanet.com. In this episode of the Sam Oldham podcast, I'm joined by the 2025 horizontal bar world champion Brody Malone. At the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, he was part of the US men's team that won the first team medal in 16 years. Back in 2023, Brody suffered a very serious injury whilst competing on the high bar and made an incredible comeback to just be selected for the team in Paris. He's had an amazing career. It's been an incredible 5 years for him, and I'm very excited to have him on the show. Brody, thanks for joining us, mate.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, like I said, Brody, this 5 years, it's been absolutely incredible for you. Before I do an episode like this, I go and I do a bit of a Wikipedia search and I go through everybody and I like putting the pieces together. I rewatch performances and, like I said, you're still a very young man in terms of men's artistic all-around gymnastics by today's standards. And I'm so excited for maybe what the future will hold. I know that it had been a question for you whether to carry on after Paris and the success there. And I'm sure, we'll get into how difficult that journey was just to get back from that knee injury and the multiple surgeries that you had. But sitting here now at 25, having achieved what you've achieved, Brody, you're a few weeks off the World Championships now, coming home, double world champion. Did you ever expect to be at this point in your career?
Oh, man. I don't know. I'm always the kind of guy, I don't like to set expectations. I like to set goals. And then, when I reach those goals, it's always nice. But I'm very much a take it one day at a time kind of person. So what I enjoy is, getting in the gym every day. I enjoy the grind of everything, setting goals and then working hard to achieve those. So then when things like this happen, it's just, you can kind of see all your hard work coming through. And, I think double world champion is kind of I don't think I really ever thought that I would be this far, but, now that it's happened, kind of looking back and, I've had a few weeks to let it sink in. It's kind of a crazy thing. And, I'm very grateful for all the people that have helped me get this far. And, I'm looking back, I can definitely see all the hard work and all the sacrifices that I've made to get this far. And just kind of put it into perspective for myself. It's a pretty incredible thing, and I'm definitely proud of it.
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. When I think about how young you were when you won your first world title and then everything that happened in between winning your second world title, it's almost like a whole career in just a few years. And when you think about the setback of the injury in the Olympics and all of that and how that's played out, I'm a massive gymnastics fan. So a lot of the gymnasts from the US that I grew up watching, some of the greats, I consider you right up there now with the likes of Bart Connor, Paul Hamm, Jonathan Horton, Daniel Lever, all of these guys in terms of the medal achievements of what you've done in that short space of time. What surprised you more, Brody, the first world title or maybe this one? When you look back at it, I know it's still not been long in terms of the achievement.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, this one probably surprised me a little bit more. Not that I didn't go in, knowing that I was competitive, but just like it felt a lot better having gone through what I went through with my injury, and then not having the showing in Paris that I wanted to have, and being able to come back for an individual world championships, especially. I think typically the individual worlds are a little bit more competitive on the events. So I always enjoy coming to those because it's like the top guys of each country. So I really enjoyed that, and to be able to come home with a medal in general, I think is an awesome accomplishment, and I'm very happy. Like I was saying, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Definitely a little bit more surprised. There was some things going on during that week with my first skill, the Winkler, and all the things that kind of went on with that made it a very stressful World Championships for sure. But kind of put my head down and made sure that I did that right, and I think everything fell where it fell for a reason. So
Is there a noticeable difference, Brody, between, you've won medals at World Championships of a different colour, right? Is there a noticeable difference between winning, let's say, a bronze and a silver to a gold? And what does that look like, that difference? Is it maybe the expectation levels then moving forwards? Is it, you going in to a World Championships and a World High Bar final knowing that you already are a world champion? What does that look like? And maybe on the other side of that, once you've won a gold medal in comparison maybe to winning a bronze or a silver, is there a difference there?
Yeah, so I've won just a bronze and two golds, so I haven't got silver yet. But I mean, I would say definitely when I won bronze, I think that was 21 Worlds, right off the Olympics. Um, and I can tell you, of course, I was happy with the outcome. I was happy to win a medal, but I was, I was pretty angry also. I remember, sitting in the awards, like, how like you're back and sitting in the chairs before they send you out for awards. And I'm just texting my dad and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I text him, I said, "Wrong color." So like after winning a bronze, I definitely kind of felt that fire. I felt the motivation because I'd gone so far, and I felt I'd done my routine, done my job, and like I said, of course, I was happy with it. But I felt definitely that motivation and that fire. And then flash forward to the next year, 22, won the gold medal, and you feel less of that fire kind of under your butt once you get to that level. And that's something that you set a goal when you're a little kid. I want to be a world champion, or I want to be an Olympic champion, and then to finally have that come true, you get all of these mixed emotions, right? You're happy, you're proud of yourself, but then you also get the flood of kind of, now what? Like I've reached to the top of this level, so now what? So coming back off of a gold medal, it's a total mix of emotions. You're happy, you're sad, you're trying to figure out what to do next, like what new goals to set. Um, so kind of coming back after that, it was more of like, what are my new goals? Like, um, what can I do next? What can I use as motivation moving forward? And so that was kind of a challenge for me at first, trying to figure out where to go from there. And I think I kind of set my sights on the Olympics in Paris. But then leading up to that, obviously I had the knee injury that gave me some major setbacks. So um, and then after I made it to Paris, I didn't necessarily have the best first day. It was probably the worst competition of my life. I've described it as that, and I think it was. It was a pretty terrible competition. Um, but yeah, then coming off of Paris and not having the showing that I wanted, I was very happy with the outcome of the team finals, and that was kind of my goal moving into it, or going into Paris. I wanted to put Team USA on the podium. I wanted it to be like solely focused on the team. I mean, the individual stuff that I wanted to do was just kind of like the cherry on top. So the focus was fully on the team, and we made it happen, and that was a phenomenal thing. So super happy with that. I tell people all the time that Paris was the most fun competition that I've ever competed in, hands down, compared to any other NCAA competitions. And the NCAA is like, that's a really fun atmosphere. Um, but this one was just incredible, and to be honest, I would have said that whether or not we won a medal, because just the team camaraderie we had, the support that we had from the crowd, and just every aspect of that competition was just made it such a memorable moment. And then to get a medal on top of that is just like, that's the cherry on top. Um, so yeah, that was phenomenal. But obviously, I didn't meet my individual goals, and then kind of going into this last Worlds. Um, this was kind of my opportunity to redeem myself, I guess you could say, and try to, I guess, prove to myself again that I'm one of those top guys on high bar, and I can be the top guy. I've done it before, but you gotta do it again. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at about it.
And do you feel like you're one of those athletes, Brody, that needs not necessarily somebody else to prove something to, but there needs to be something to prove to get you motivated. You spoke there about, being in your very early 20s and winning a world title. And after that, maybe struggling and finding it difficult. Okay, what's the next goal? Where is that motivation? Do you feel like now you're in your mid-20s, you've just become a world champion again, you have a better idea of, okay, maybe I need to be a little bit more creative in where I find that driving force of motivation moving forwards, but there needs to be something that I'm striving for, aiming for. And we often hear people maybe say, okay, when you have these big achievements like winning a world title, you need to really soak it in and enjoy the moment. But, I've spoken to a lot of athletes now, and I don't think those two things line up. I think what creates a successful athlete is the what's next. Because if you sit back and relax, chances are you aren't going to be that successful guy that makes it right to the very top.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, goals are what motivate us, right? So like when we finally reach our goal, there's this sense of, okay, like what next? Especially when you reach a goal at a high level like that, because there's not much more after it. So it's kind of like a reframing process. Like what can I either, try to do it again, or um, like do I shift my focus more towards team, or like how do I reframe this in my mind to keep myself motivated, to keep going and keep pushing. And that's something, like I mentioned before, that I definitely struggled with at first. But, as athletes, especially elite athletes, we have to find our ways to do that.
Have you found, Brody, that in the beginning, in the early stages of your career, you were very much potentially competing against others and trying to beat everybody else and become the best, maybe on the way up? Do you find now that you're competing more just against yourself, and it's more a journey of discovering how good can I be?
Yeah, no, I can. I'll just give you a little story about Tokyo, the Tokyo Olympics. So that was my first big international competition that I'd gone to. I hadn't gone to World Championships prior to that. And, I was 21 years old because it got delayed a year. So I was 21, and first competition, I can remember going into the training hall for the first time, and I'm seeing all these gymnasts that I've grown up watching on TV and just aspired to be. And I walked in and I'm seeing all these guys. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here. Like these are the guys I'm competing against now. And it's really easy when you do that to kind of like change your approach and change your mindset. So I found myself kind of trying to be a little bit too perfect, like trying to, and it was all like just kind of like mentally in the back of my head. I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I was like, okay, I'm here at this top level. I have to beat these guys. I need to be perfect. And I started changing my gymnastics a little bit. Luckily, my coach and we caught it early on, and I was able to kind of reel it back. But yeah, no, it's definitely, that was an experience where I was like, wow, like these are the guys I'm competing against. This is my competition now. I got to step it up. I got to be that guy, But now, as I've gone forward in my career and gotten more experience, I've gone to now 3 world championships and another Olympics. Gymnastics is very much, for me, like I have to just compete against myself. The only things that I can control are my performance. I can't control how anyone else does. I can't control what the judges are doing. The only thing I can do is go out there, do my routines, and be as undeniable as possible, and not leave any room for doubt in my eyes or the judges' eyes. So that's kind of, as I've grown in my career, that's kind of how my mindset has shifted. And I think that definitely attributes a lot to the success I've had. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing, mate. Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. I remember being at my first World Championships, and, I was probably spending 10 minutes extra than I needed to in that training gym because I'm trying to impress whoever it is out there that's in the room, and I'm doing that one extra go, or like you said, trying to be perfect. And, because these guys were my idols, and I eventually learned, oh no, the best athletes, if you watch them, all they're focused on is their own performance. They're not interested in anybody else. So, I think that's great for young athletes that are maybe listening to this to hear, Brody, because you don't often get to hear that from the best athletes that, no, in the beginning, I certainly was distracted by everybody around me. And I think anyone can relate to that, right? Even nationally,
Absolutely.
you would have had that the first time you went to the US Championships. You would have been the same, like,
Oh yeah,
whoa,
first
bright
time I
lights.
competed against Sam McCulloch, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the same arena right now as Sam. Like he was my USA gymnastics idol growing up. Like he's who I wanted to be. And I can remember like the first senior national team camp that I went to, like introducing myself to Sam and being like, oh my gosh, he knows my name now. Yeah, like there's definitely that factor of, oh my gosh, I'm here, like these are the people I'm with now, and it can be distracting, but I think the important part is understanding that your gymnastics is what got you to where you are, and you don't have to change that. um, so yeah, that's definitely probably one of the biggest lessons that I've gotten throughout my career.
What role did gymnastics play in your early life, Brody? When did you first get into the sport? How did that happen? And what part did it play in that early education? I guess not only in terms of sports and school, but just your whole life in general.
Yeah, so I started when I was 3.
Oh
My
wow, so
parent
very early.
Yeah, so I was definitely one of those kids that was just climbing all over the place, had way too much energy. It's like the classic gymnastics story. So there was a gym close by, I guess, and my parents put me in with like the little classes, and just kind of went from there. But gymnastics wasn't the only sport I did. I did a lot of things growing up. Baseball was my big one, but I played soccer, basketball, baseball. I played baseball till I was like 11 or 12. Um, and then at that point, I kind of had to make the decision between gymnastics and baseball because I mean, it gets time consuming at that point. And then I also grew up rodeo, and my mom and dad both were from the horse world. They met in college, like through equestrian. My dad was on the rodeo team. My mom was on the equestrian team. And then that's kind of how I grew up, going to junior rodeos and stuff. So I've got a crazy mixed background of sports. And I think I can confidently say that I'm the only gymnast who has a rodeo background.
Yeah, like what what are the transferable skills from? I'm straight away. I'm like, that makes so much sense. You're a high bar worker.
Yeah.
Like,
I got asked this question, 2021 USA's, after the first day I was in the lead, and NBC pulled me aside for a live interview, and they asked me that question, and I completely blanked on that. I always look back to that because that was a terrible experience for me. Like I was so nervous. I'd never been interviewed like that before. But yeah, no, it's like as far as the comparables, I mean, it's very different. I mean, you're dealing with live animals, and there's a lot of things out of your control. And I think in gymnastics, everything is pretty much in your control. So as far as like your performance and
yeah,
stuff, but I don't know. I think what I learned from doing all the different types of sports is just kind of how to be a competitor. I'm from a very competitive family. My dad was always very competitive when he was doing sports growing up, and he definitely instilled that in us. And I'm the oldest of 4, so I've got 2 younger brothers and a younger sister, and everything we do is a competition. So growing up and having those different sports in my life, I think it was very good to just kind of teach me how to be competitive, how to get in the zone, and perform under pressure. And I think doing all those sports growing up, especially the team sports, helped me as I was moving along in my gymnastics career.
do you think there was something, Brody, that attracted you in the end when you make that decision? I know that when you stand there and you're there and you're batting or you're pitching, it is just you, but you're part of the team, right? And the team's there in the dugout. Uh, was there something that attracted you to gymnastics with it being an individual sport?
I wouldn't say that was necessarily what attracted me to it. To be honest, I can't really tell you why I chose gymnastics.
Okay.
I really loved baseball, and I hated to give that up. I just say that was kind of just God pointing me in the right direction. That was something that I enjoyed gymnastics a lot. I enjoyed the challenge of it, but I also enjoyed baseball. So I can't really tell you why
Yeah.
I really chose gymnastics, but it just kind of worked out.
And when you're starting out, Brody, were you somebody that was quite gifted naturally, being somebody that did a lot of sports on all of the events? Was there something that from the beginning you had a little bit of a natural gift for?
Yeah, I think I mean every one of my family is pretty athletic, and I would say even probably my brothers more athletic than me. They didn't. Everyone tried gymnastics when they were young, but I was the only one that liked it. My the brother that's closest in age to me, I've been told many times that the coaches thought he was going to be the one for in the gym, but he just didn't enjoy it. But yeah, so I mean, I just enjoyed gymnastics. I enjoyed the challenge of it. I liked the like how you can strive to achieve or achieve a perfection. All of that stuff kind of just drew me into it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm one of four too, and I'm the oldest. And yeah, all my three siblings tried gymnastics, and they all went, "I'm not doing that. That's crazy. Why are you doing that?" And again, my brother is probably the more naturally gifted athlete.
Mhm.
He makes things look effortless, whereas I'm a bit more strength, and I will
Yeah,
muscle my way through it. However, if you you know, I'd argue if you put me and him on a treadmill, he's going to get off first. I think that's more than I've got this here, even though he's a lot fitter than I am. So
yeah,
that might not ring true anymore now that we're older men. But amazing, mate. Brody, I couldn't help but when I was looking at your background and your upbringing, see that sadly you lost your mum very early, and then you also went on to lose your stepmother. What I was interested in with that, Brody, is that I remember being a young gymnast training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's a tough sport being a young kid, and in many ways you have to grow up fast.
yeah,
And my dad would quite often be like the tag team partner to my coach, but my mom
yeah.
would be kind of the person that was like, "I don't listen to your dad. It's okay. I'll put your arm." My dad would give me the tough love, and they could play good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Did your dad at times end up throughout growing up have to play all of those roles, and what was that dynamic like for you, mate? And obviously you don't have to talk about anything you don't want to, but I just found that quite
Oh,
interesting.
yeah. No, I'm an open book. I'll talk about anything. So, yeah. So I lost my mom when I was 12, and that was definitely a really tough time, and not just my life, but um, and all of our lives. My dad, he was a high school teacher at the time. He ended up, um, and the biggest thing that I've learned from that, and I mean, I was young, so obviously it was kind of hard for me to understand certain things, but through that we really bonded and came a lot closer as a family. So for me, family is number one. It gets put above all else, and that's something that we just learned from having that experience. But yeah, no, my dad, even though that happened, I'd say he had to play a little bit of both roles. He's definitely more of a tough love kind of guy. He's, if you fall down, rub some dirt on it kind of guy. And I definitely carry that in everything I do, not just gymnastics, but in everyday life. Um, but yeah, like after that had happened when I was 12, I think my relationship with gymnastics shifted a little bit, and it became more, I don't want to say like an escape, but I definitely used it as kind of like a means to, I guess, escape. Like that was my place to go to, that I could kind of forget about things, and I would just put my head down and work. So that kind of started that, that in addition with my dad being the tough love type, like putting my head down and grinding. Um, I made the decision when I was young that I was going to work hard, no matter what, and every single turn that I was going to take was going to have purpose and meaning. And that's kind of where it happened, or like how it happened and how it started. And then that kind of just carried out throughout high school, middle school, and high school. Um, but yeah, and then in 2019, I was actually at a competition with Stanford. I got a text from one of my friends and said, "Hey, I'm so sorry to hear about your stepmom." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" This was after the meet. We were getting ready to go to the airport, and I called my dad, I'm like, hey, what's going on? He said, you need to get home. And I was like, oh gosh. And he told me what had happened. They were in the hospital. And then my Stanford coaches were great. They immediately got me on a flight home, and I was home for like 2 weeks, I think. But I was 19 years old then, and I think I was a little bit more emotionally mature and able to understand kind of what my dad was going through, and then also more of what I was going through. So there's a lot of similarities between what happened with my mom and also what happened with my stepmom, but um, I still kind of use those. I guess I just use gymnastics kind of as an escape, and um, I mean it kind of worked out. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
it's
I completely
sad,
understand
but
that, mate. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I still do that now as a 32-year-old man that's been retired for 4 or 5 years. I keep my high bar guards in my bag, and if I'm going close to
yeah,
the gym, every now and then I'll just go in and I'll swing around the bar because it's the one place where when I'm swinging around that bar, everything else just disappears. So I completely relate to that escapism and also probably the type of mentality that you maybe had as a young athlete of. It's interesting that you said decision when you spoke about your work ethic because I really felt like it is a decision. Like you have to decide that you're going to be the guy in the room that works the hardest. I think
absolutely.
some people that maybe are not that way inclined, or maybe those athletes that are considered, like your brother, the gifted ones in the beginning, right? They think that that guy that works hard over there, he's just built like that. He was born that way. But it is a decision. Like I'm choosing to work harder than everybody else in this room. And that's really interesting, I think, for people to hear because there are so many athletes out there that are incredibly naturally gifted. But you would probably attest, like I would, that, you know, that's fine. But if they don't work hard enough, it isn't going to take them to the top. Like that won't
Yeah,
work.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes is a little cheesy, but it's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I mean, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not grinding every day and putting your head down and doing the work, then you're not going to get as far as you could. And that guy who might not have as much talent as you, but is just working his butt off every single day and grinding, he's gonna take you, or he's gonna pass you, and he's gonna beat you. So that was something that I I heard at a young age, and like I said, you have to make a conscious decision every single day to come in the gym and say, I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can. And every single turn is going to count. Like there's always, and that's one of the things that drew me to gymnastics is there's always a way to be better. There's always something that you can strive for. I can point my toes harder. I can try to make it higher. I can keep my arms straighter. I can be stronger here. So that's something that really drew me to it because there's like this idea of perfection, right? But it's so hard to reach. And there's so many different levels and ways that you can attack it and try to reach it. So you're never gonna just get there and be completely satisfied. There's always something that's going to keep you hungry for more.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, I always look back to there was an interview that Kohei Uchimura did in 2013 with the BBC, and someone basically asked him. The interviewer said, "Like, what are you trying to do now?" And he's like, "I'm trying to have the perfect competition." And I think
Yeah.
what he meant by that was that I'm going to try and stick every single landing on every single apparatus in an all-around competition. And he came very close to doing that in 2014. But, it's that idea that, like, I'm going to aim for perfection even though I know it's not possible.
Yeah.
That's the pursuit. It's this continuous journey that will go on forever, and that's what I think I loved about the sport as well. It's this thing that you're never going to get there, but the journey is such an amazing thing to strive for it. It's how close can I get to it, even though I know it's fictitious, it doesn't exist. So yeah, again, a really cool thing to hear, me. I think for me, when I watch you compete, Brody, and just hearing there about those experiences you had as a very young man. It makes a lot of sense. When I watch you, you don't seem to get phased by much. When you take obviously the knee injury, the multiple surgeries, then having to try and get back for the Olympics in a very short amount of time, going to Paris, having in your own words, like the worst competition of your life on the first day, then being able to make very logical decisions going into that team final, and then even this World Championships, your Winkler doesn't get full credit. you end up squeezing into the final, but then you go out and hit like arguably the best high bar routine of your life, right? It seems like you're not somebody that gets phased by things, and actually you probably perform better under pressure and under stress. Do you feel like those experiences as a young man were just an amazing, at the time, obviously, incredibly difficult experiences to go through, and I'm sure still they're very hard. But the amount of perspective you must have gained from that in terms of this is just gymnastics, it's really not that important. Has that helped you and stood you in good stead?
Absolutely. And like I said before, my dad was very much a, rub some dirt on it kind of guy. No excuses. There's never excuses. And it was like full accountability for everything. So that growing up like that and having those kind of experiences, I mean, especially with having my mom pass away when I was that young, one of the things my dad told us as kids, he was like, yes, it's terrible. Like our mom is gone. He's like, your mom's gone, but there's nothing that we can do about it now. So it's how do we move on from that? Um, so I think that was a sugar coated way of saying, rub some dirt on it. But I think that was kind of his way of getting through it as well. So, I mean, that has been learning from those experiences. That has been my approach with everything in life, not just gymnastics, but I'm very much a no excuses, work harder, rub dirt on it kind of guy. And that definitely translates to gymnastics. I mean, all of my career, I've tried to make sure that, I'm the hardest worker in the gym, whether or not I'm the most talented, it doesn't matter. You got to work hard. Um, and then taking that kind of mindset into competitions as well. I mean, you probably noticed that I don't really celebrate very much. I'm very much a like just go in there, do my business, handle what I can handle, do my thing, and get out. There's very few times where I've actually celebrated, and I kind of let it get away from me there. But that's just kind of always how I've been. Like I'm there. It's a job. Like I'm there to do my job and get out. I don't need to waste any. My Stanford coach was really good at putting this into words, just about emotional energy. He's like, you don't need to waste any emotional energy on that because that stuff, it drains you. Um, so for me, I've always kind of taken that to heart. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go into this competition. I'm going to bone my sets and I'm just going to salute the judge and walk off and get ready for the next event. There's no need for me to waste any of my emotional or mental energy, doing a huge celebration. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just for me, that's kind of my approach. And I think I have drawn on all of my experiences growing up, the good and the bad, to that have kind of made me that way. Um, and yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes so much sense. And you strike me as the type of athlete that, if I was in your team, you would lead through your performances. It wouldn't necessarily be all this shouting and come on, everybody. I'd look to you and go, okay, right, that guy goes out and he hits his routine. There's no big celebration, but it makes me feel comfortable because he's got everything under control. And I think that professionalism, I imagine, from what I see from the outside watching you compete, is something that's probably very infectious for the guys around you. And also, if you're someone that is that guy that is always trying to be the hardest worker in the gym, regardless of the situation or your age, that really does rub off on the younger guys looking up, right?
yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the cool things about where I'm at now. I moved from Stanford after I had my knee injury. I moved from Stanford to Evo down here in Florida, and I'm going. It was like going from training at a training center, right? Like a national training center to training at a club gym again. So I'm training with, you know, kids who are anywhere from 13 to 18, or to my age, or to 31, I guess. So we have the whole range of people. But my favorite part of training there now is training with those young guys because they're so impressionable and you can instill so many good values just by the way you act around them. And so helping them through like all of their things that they're going through in life and in gymnastics, that's honestly been my favorite part of these last couple of years. Because I love kids, I love coaching, I love watching the progression of they're here and like just every day they're getting better and better and better. And to me that's kind of like a passion that I've found in the last couple of years, just being there with them. And man, I love it.
Yeah, you can forget that, I think, when whether it is training out of Stanford with guys that are at a very high level and are maybe just in your age bracket, or you're training at a national center and you're based with a national team, you can lose sight of why you started in the beginning. And I think going back to a club gym and seeing those kids right at the beginning of their journey, I think it reignites a lot of that inspiration, because it takes you back to when you were their age and you go, what would I have wanted to have seen from my idols when I was that? Because the older guys in my gym when I was 5, 6, they were my heroes, So like I looked up to them so much, and that goes both ways, right? Like they can see the positive behavior and also the negative. And we've all been around, and I've been one of those athletes at times in my career where I've been the guy that shouts or gets aggressive or is angry, and they're seeing that. I see that now as a dad. Like, my little boy is always watching, he's always learning. So you have to really, okay, what kind of a human being do I want him to, but the same, what kind of young athletes do I want these guys to grow up to be? I need to instill that behavior myself. So I think it does hold you accountable again.
Yes, I was
When you
going
get
to
in
say
there.
that.
Yeah.
There's an accountability factor too, because I mean, we all have this idea of the kind of athlete that we want to be, but sometimes we need someone other than ourselves to hold us accountable, because we can kind of lose sight of that in certain moments. But I mean, when you're surrounded by 20 kids who look up to you and are watching every single thing you do, man, you have to be accountable. And I love that factor of training at a club gym.
Yeah, it's brilliant, man. And I see what you guys are doing there. I mean, you're just, obviously something is special is happening there, because there's a reason everybody is moving towards that same place, right? And it's really cool and exciting to see. And I imagine maybe just tell us a little bit about what that's like, Brody, because you've effectively got like a laboratory of gymnastics happening, where everybody, I imagine, because there are so many of you guys, high level, you talked about Donnell, a lot of experience. You guys are almost between each other finding the path of least resistance really quickly. Okay, like this new code, which skills? And we saw that obviously, with the Winkler, you adapting the Winkler to do it from a cast at the beginning, do it at the start of the routine. Straight away, like what's crazy now is you can't keep that stuff secret, because it spreads around the world fast. And then all of a sudden, in a few weeks, everybody's in the gym trying it, which is cool. But I imagine it's very exciting being in the gym with all of those guys at such a high level and so many high level coaches. It must be pretty exciting seeing that level of gymnastics, and maybe you would say it's helping you improve even now at 25.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things for me is just talking about like where you train and who you surround yourself with, is you're only going to be as good as the people around you. So for me, like if I'm looking at the gym that I want to train at, I don't want to necessarily be the best guy in the gym. I want to I want to be able to work towards something. So for me, and I kind of break that down event by event, right? So like Donnell is who I need to beat on rings. So he's top of the top right now. So my goal every time I go and do my rings workout is how do I get closer to beating Donnell or Alex Diab? And then like we've got Steven on pommel horse. I mean, I know I'm probably never going to catch him on pommel horse, but
Yeah, you never
but
know.
that I mean, that's who I'm trying to get to. And then we've got like all these guys on all these other events, and to have that, and that's something very special that we had at Stanford too. Um, that we, everyone who's there has a common goal, and for us at Evo, that goal is to be on the podium at LA, to win a gold medal at LA, right? So when you are surrounded by people who have the same goals, who work as hard as you, and who are better than you at certain things or certain events, that is just a recipe for getting better. I mean, absolutely, hands down. There's no question about it. That is the way to get better, because you come in the gym and you feel really bad or something, you don't feel like working, and then I see Don on rings doing crazy stuff. I'm like, oh man, like I'm not really feeling it today, but I have to, like, that's my goal. I have to work towards that. So it's an extra motivational factor too. And I don't know, just having that at Stanford was phenomenal, because I didn't necessarily have that at my club gym growing up, but once I got to Stanford, being surrounded by those guys, I mean, it just took me to another level, because I had people around me who were better than me on every single event, and it lit a fire under my butt. I mean, I was so motivated. I was working as hard as I possibly could because I wanted to be the best. And then move into Evo, uh, and us being able to create that team and that team culture, there's really no better place.
Is there a difference, Brody, between that level, that college level, NCAA level, and obviously Stanford, one of the best teams in the time that you were there, very, very dominant? Is there a difference between that and then internationally competing at, let's say, an Olympic Games or a World Championships, and particularly in the team final? Is there a difference in that level, like a noticeable one? And what does that look like? Because, for us over here in the UK, we don't have a college system. We wouldn't know what
Yeah.
that would be like. We only compete internationally at, say, the European Championships, and then that step up is then the World Championships.
Yeah. So I would say the level of gymnastics at an NCAA championships, uh, it's kind of hard to compare compared to like a World or Olympics. I mean, obviously the level of competition at Worlds and Olympics is going to be more or higher, but the things that I learned from being in the NCAA and going through all of my NCAA seasons, for me, the biggest thing is gymnastics is a very individual sport, right? There's no question about that. But when you go to NCAA, it's all about the team. There's no more individual. And to be surrounded by 20 guys every single day where we all share the common goal and we're all an actual team and we want to win a team championships, no one is worried about individuals. So, um, go into that, yeah, it makes it very competitive. And we had a very competitive, like, just forget about all the other teams for a second. Make a lineup at Stanford, when I was there, it was a 5-man lineup. Oh my gosh, you would have thought we were competing to make world championships because it was just so competitive. And everyone, like I was talking about, everyone was just so on board with everything. And I mean, we had all these great guys, and like I was not the best guy on every single event. And to have that kind of motivation and drive, um, it was just phenomenal every single day, and that really helped me develop as an athlete. But going to an NCAA championships, I think I had an interview at the Tokyo Olympics. Someone asked me if this after the competition, or they said, "Was this the most nervous you've ever been for a competition?" I said, actually, no. The most nervous I've been was NCAA championships because there's so much on the line. You're working for it, and it's not just you that you're out there for. I mean, it wasn't just me that I was out there for at the Olympics, but I don't know that I feel like there's a lot that went into going through an NCAA season and grinding and working hard with your brothers like that, and then going to an NCAA championships where you worked an entire year for this, and you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for every single guy that's on the team. Um, and to be honest, that really helped me going into the Olympics and going into all of these big international competitions because I had that experience competing for a team and I knew what that kind of pressure felt like. So that's why when I was at Tokyo, I didn't feel as nervous as I did for NCAAs because I'd had that experience competing all year, however many meets are in the NCAA season, then NCAA championships. I'd had those high pressure situations where it's not just for me, it's for everyone else. And that really going through that and practicing that gives you the comfortability when you're going into big competitions because uh, and I would argue it might be a lot different for guys who don't go through the NCAA system because you don't get many opportunities to compete as a team. So I feel like for us, NCAA is a very valuable tool to help prepare us to compete internationally as a team.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Brody. I think in the past, a lot of people have maybe asked the question, does competing for an NCAA team going to college take away from the US's team ability to win a medal maybe at an Olympic Games, right? And you guys went 16 years without winning a medal as a team. I would argue on the flip side of that now, selling the idea of the team to the athletes once they've competed in the NCAA is a lot easier than it would be somewhere like the UK, whereas we don't have that. You compete as your club, but there's not that much on the line. It's nothing like an NCAA season, and the mindset is a little bit more at the moment every man for himself type thing. If I get onto the team, then okay, yeah, now we're a team and we're going to work together. But it feels to me like you guys have grown up, particularly the lads that have been part of that NCAA structure and setup. Your brains have been wired to think team first, individual second, and maybe actually looking back at the great US teams that you had in 2012, 2016, maybe because a lot of those guys trained at national centres were individuals, that may be why they struggled to put it together. I know a lot of those gymnasts previously had been team members, but we've chatted to Jake Dalton, we've chatted to Sam McCulloch, and both of those guys said, the lads that had competed in the NCAA, they understood the team, right? It was like team first. And I think for you guys now, having won that bronze last year, when I go back to 2012 when we won that bronze, there was nobody said, not a single person can I remember saying out loud, now we're going to try and win gold as a team. That conversation never took place. So after that, we kind of were a little bit aimless, but also there wasn't that common goal, whereas it sounds to me like you guys are having the conversation and we want to win a team gold now. This is what we're trying to do. And if as a byproduct we win individual medals, that's what hopefully will happen. But so that's very interesting you say that, mate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think a cool thing that we did before team finals in Paris was, our team meeting before the competition was, we're going to treat this, because everyone on the team had been through an NCAA program or was currently going through it. Our message was, we're going to treat this like an NCAA championships. We're going out there. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for the team, for each other. It's not me, it's us. And having that kind of mentality and having the experience beforehand to go into that competition and being able to pull off of our experience from NCAA championships, I think ultimately led us to winning a medal.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree, mate. And I think I watched the NCAA championships this year. And I was just, I couldn't believe the depth, just how many strong guys you have over there in the US at the moment. That's can only bode well for the next few years for you guys moving into LA. And personally, I hope that GB can put up a real good challenge with you guys. But I think, it's very difficult when clearly a team's main focus is the team. And I'm not sure that, over here in the UK with the GB team, I'm not sure that is the main focus at the moment. I'd like to see that in the next 12 months as we go into next year. And, I always want to see a big battle between the US team and the GB team. And who knows, maybe the Russian team will be back again. Just tell us a little bit, Brody, for anybody that doesn't know, what injury did you suffer back in 2023? And how did that happen? I've not seen, I know that there is a video of that injury. I've not seen it because I typically don't like watching those types of videos. But what happened, and then what was the subsequent injury that you suffered?
Yeah, so I've actually got a video. I can text it to you.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah.
It's a little bit blurry. It's from the stands, but yeah, no, I got it actually like 2 hours after the injury because I wanted to show the doctors what happened. But yeah, so I was competing in Stuttgart at DTB, probably one of the only competitions where you get to compete in a team competition other than a world championships. So that's a really important competition for us. So, and it was 2023. So I'd just come off my world title in 2022 on high bar. And I think we won the team competition. So that was kind of our goal going into it was, start building, getting ready for team competition. But in addition to that, I also made high bar finals. And man, I was so pumped going into it because this was the first time that I'd seen Dikey and competed against him since Worlds. So I was like, all right, man, like I gotta put a seal on it. I beat him once last year, but that's just not enough. I want to do it again. So going into that finals, I was like, it's time, man, it's time. And so I do my routine, and it's probably one of the best routines I've done. And then, man, I'm just winding up for the dismount, and I do my Chinese tap, and then I tap through, and my left hand just peels. It's like a fluke accident. The grip on the bar felt fine for the whole routine. So I I don't know why I peeled. There was really no reason. It just kind of happened. And then in the air, I'm flipping in the air. I do like a double back with a half. And in the air before I hit the ground, I'm like, okay, all I got to do is just put this on my feet and I can still beat him. That literally was what was going through my head. Um, but then I did not put it on my feet. So my knee, I kind of landed basically entirely on my right leg. My knee kind of went backwards, almost into like a 90 degrees, like back into an angle. Um, and just kind of laying there on the ground. I knew it was bad, and I was like waving for everyone to come over. Um, and that part sucked. That part sucked for sure. But what ended up happening was um, like a long list of injuries. So I had a tibial plateau fracture. So that's like your femur and your tibia where your knee meets. Like the part of it right here basically just chipped off completely. Tore my meniscus, tore my LCL, partially tore my PCL, and then I tore my posterior lateral corner, which is like a part of your hamstring. Um, so yeah, it was a list of injuries. Somehow I didn't tear my ACL. I don't know how. But the part that sucked about it is I didn't really get to find out what all my injuries were until a few weeks after it happened because I got the initial surgery in Germany and then a surgery at Stanford, and then they had to wait for swelling in my knee to go down to get an MRI to get like an accurate description of what had happened. So it was a lot. There's a lot of time where it was just kind of up in the air. I didn't really know, excuse me, the extent of the injury and how long my recovery time was going to be. We had an idea, but there was nothing for certain. But yeah, so right after the injury, they got me to the hospital in Germany or in Stuttgart, and you know, I had no clue what was going on. I mean, I'm in a German hospital. I've never been in a hospital outside of the U.S., so not everyone's speaking English. And I'm like, what's going on right now? I've got all my doctors and everything with me, helping me out. So I knew I was in good hands. But the German doctor came in. They did some like a CAT scan and X-rays and stuff. And the German doctor ended up coming in. He's like, okay, we're going to do an external fixator. And I was like, cool. I have no clue what that is, but just do it. And he kind of like explained it to me. And I think I was just so out of it. I was like, okay, do whatever. But they took me back for surgery. And all I remember when I woke up, I was in the room and I had a blanket over my knee. And I pulled the blanket up and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is an external fixator. There's just a huge hunk of metal sticking out of my knee, and I can't bend my knee in any way. Um, I was like, oh my god, that's kind of wild. So I really had no clue what he was talking about when he said external fixator, but yeah, definitely external for sure. Um, but yeah, I stayed there in the hospital for like 2 days, I think, before I flew home. Um, Fun fact, it was actually my first class flight, which was
Wow.
pretty sweet. We drove to Frankfurt, I think, and then got a flight from Frankfurt all the way back to San Francisco. And I had to fly first class because I had to be able to lay flat because my knee wouldn't bend. It was just locked straight. Um, got a lot of weird looks in the airport for sure. Um, but yeah, so I got back to Stanford, went straight from the airport to the hospital. My dad met me there. And the next morning, I believe, we did the surgery to fix the fracture and my meniscus. Oh, and there was also some cartilage damage. So they did what's called a microfracture procedure. They just drill a bunch of little holes to try to stimulate regrowth, I guess. Um, but yeah, so I've got 9 screws and 2 plates in my knee. It's pretty gnarly. They showed me the X-ray for the first time. I'm like, dang, y'all must have gone to like Home Depot and just hooked me up. I don't know if you know what Home Depot is. It's like
Oh,
a
I do.
hardware.
I listen to enough
Okay.
American podcasts. I
Okay.
do.
Yeah, I was like, you guys just went to Home Depot and hooked me up, huh? uh, but yeah, so they did all that, and that was a really rough recovery, especially the first couple of days. Honestly, the first couple of weeks after that, it was really bad. It was super hard to get out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed for a few days just because I mean it was super painful. But then I was on crutches for 6 weeks, and then I was still at Stanford at this time, and after about 4 weeks of being on crutches and not really being able to do anything, I finally got a little bit more mobile. So um, and then once I was able to fully put weight on it and walk again, I started doing some stuff in the gym. I mean, super light, like swings on high bar. And I was able to start doing some strength stuff on rings and just really small things like that. Um, but in that time, we got the MRI to see what the full extent of the injury was, because we knew there was going to have to be another surgery. We just didn't know exactly what it was going to be on. So got the MRI and found out that my LCL was completely torn. PCL was partially torn, so I don't even think they touched it, which is good. And then the posterior lateral corner was torn as well. So um, I was on crutches, or I got that surgery June. So I guess I should go back through some dates, huh? So like middle to end of March, I think March like 19th was my injury, and then got the external fixator that night, and then flew home a couple days later, got the next surgery with the screws and the plates, and then 6 weeks on crutches, and then slowly trying to come back, and then got my final surgery June or was it June or July 14th? I think it was July. Sorry, my wife's over here. I'm
That's
asking.
okay. Nice to meet you.
July 14th. Um, got my final surgery, and 2 weeks after that, that was when I was cleared to travel, and then I went home back to Georgia, like with my dad for a week, and then after that moved down to Florida and continued my rehab process.
It's just the most remarkable story, mate. I don't know where you even start after, because it's not like an injury happens, you have one surgery, and then you start, right? Like that whole period went on for 3 or 4 months. In those moments, Brody, and look, having listened to everything that you've told me before, I'm sure this wasn't necessarily too difficult for yourself, but it's quite easy in those situations to fall into the victim mentality mindset, right? Like of why me, poor me. But I'm sure you would say that just doesn't get you anywhere ultimately. How do you make sure that you don't fall into that way of thinking? Because for everybody that's difficult, right? What were you able to draw upon in that time and that difficult time to keep you, still holding on to that dream of going to another Olympic Games in what became, if the last surgery was in July, just 12 months later? Like, that is a remarkable turnaround. Like, I can't even imagine where you begin mentally to, effectively start on that journey.
Yeah, so for me, it's a lot of faith in God. So that's a very, very big part of my life, and it's been a very big part of my family's life, especially with all we've gone through. So I remember when it initially happened, and I was laying on the ground. I immediately just kind of started praying, and I was like, God, I don't know why this happened or what is going to come out of it, but I know that you've got a plan for me, and it's like I'm giving it all to you. And at that moment, like before that, I mean, something like that happens, you feel there's just like a flood of emotions, right? You got pain, like crazy pain going on. You've got doubt, you've got anxiety, you're stressed out. But after I kind of just laid there and prayed that and realized that God was going to take it, man, immediately a sense of peace just came over me. And I was like, you know what? It's not on me. God's got me. And so going through that, I think a few days later, my dad sent me a Bible verse. I'll pull it up if that's okay.
Yeah,
I
go
don't
for it,
want
mate.
to quote it, but it's out of the book of James. Pull it up. Sorry. So here we go. It's James 1, verses 2 through 4. And it says, "Consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. So when my dad first sent me that, I was like, oh yeah, like that's great. I'll kind of try to apply this. But after digging deeper into that, it says to, like, when you're going through trials and stuff like this, it says to consider it a great joy. And I'm like, what? Like, I just had one of the worst injuries of my life. I might not be able to make it to the Olympics, which is like one of my top goals. Like, how am I supposed to consider this a great joy? So like throughout this whole time, it was kind of me trying to realize how to turn this terrible experience into something that was a great joy. And I kind of learned that after the fact. I mean, going through it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try to be as positive as I can. But um, I think one thing that I learned is that everything like this, or everything happens for a reason, right? So when this happened and I gave it up to God, and I felt that sense of peace, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna let God take care of it. And to consider it a great joy, I finally, like, time went by, and I finally understood that God puts us through things, and he puts us through tests and trials to help us to grow closer with him. So there were a lot of things in my life that I learned about myself when I went through this injury. One of those being just reliance on others. Like, I'm a very independent person. I don't like to ask anyone for help ever. But going through those surgeries and literally not being able to get out of bed, and having to have my dad and my now wife like wait on me hand and foot, having to put my trust and rely on others, that was something that I had to, like, shift my mind around, because I'm not used to doing that, and I did not like doing it. So, and that kind of also helped me, like, being able to put my reliance on others helped me then learn that I need to put my reliance on God. So then once I did that, or began to do that and started doing it, I I just kind of like put all these expectations and everything that I was wanting to do, as far as like making the Olympics and all, like, the stress and everything behind it. I was like, you know what? This is all on God. He's got it. I'm just going to go through, and like I said before, I'm a very take it one day at a time kind of guy. I told myself, I'm just going to go through, and I'm going to work as hard as I can every single day. I'm going to get set my goals. My goal is to obviously make the Olympic team, but um, that's not on my mind. I set goals every single day for what I wanted to do, like with my rehab and then with my gymnastics when I got back. And I was like, you know what? Everything's going to fall into place when it falls into place. And if it doesn't, then that wasn't God's plan. But having, like, learning how to turn something that is so bad and can be so tragic, and something that you can so easily get into that victim mindset about, like, poor me, like, why would this happen to me? I don't like that, and that's a very poisonous mindset. You can go downhill really fast if you start to believe that. So once I learned how to turn it into a great joy, and learn things about myself, and it helped my relationship with God a lot, and helped my relationship with my family and my wife grow. I mean, why not consider it a great joy?
Yeah.
Because in the midst of these hard times is when you grow and learn more about yourself, and grow with others, and grow with God. And I mean, looking back now, and maybe during the time it wasn't as easy to say, but looking back now, like, I'm glad it happened.
Yeah.
There's so much, that happened, like, outside of gymnastics, that has turned me into a better person, and a better husband, and a better brother, and a better son, and just a better man. Um, so yeah, I do look back now and consider it a great joy.
Yeah, mate, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. There was so much that I could relate to, I think I got to a similar place, and look, I'm not going to stand here and say that, I believe or I don't believe in God, but I kind of got to a period in my life where I was like, it is what it is. Like, it's already decided. There's not much I can do. I've got to play the cards that I'm dealt the best that I can, but These things are kind of already taken care of. It was interesting, we spoke earlier about that choice, the deciding that you're going to be the hardest worker in the room. I've noticed that the people that I admire the most in my life, that are the most positive, probably have the most reasons to be negative. But they're making the choice every day to be that positive guy, that positive influence. And I really admire that in someone. And, you spoke about that there. And I think one of the quotes that is similar maybe to what you said in the passage there that your dad sent you, a quote that I like is that don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one, right? Because life is just going to be difficult. So, asking for an easy one, that isn't going to happen. You want the strength to be able to handle the challenges that life brings. So, thank you so much for sharing that, mate. That was brilliant. And again, just for the people back home, it's really difficult for me to get my head around how you were able to do that, in just 12 months. And I think you've explained quite clearly there how you were able to do that, and it was with faith. From the technical side of things, when you did get to Paris, Brody, and I just want to touch a little bit on the Olympic team final.
Yeah.
You have a terrible competition, and you struggle in that qualifying event, like you said. How difficult is it then to remain resolute? And also, I'm sure there are people from every direction telling you to change your routine, don't do this, or you feel okay, are you going to be fine, like what we're going to do, we're going to change the order, should we put you up on this apparatus? But for you, you've got to remain strong, mentally robust. What maybe key conversation, was there a conversation maybe you had privately with just one person or a coach or someone there, or maybe a conversation you had with yourself before that team final that you believe, looking back, helped you go and then perform the way you did in that team final?
Yeah, I mean, coming out of that qualification round, that was I was just kind of in shock, right? Because I'm not that guy usually. Usually I'm solid. I'm someone that the team can rely on, and I was disappointed in myself. I was disappointed. I felt like I had let down the team, and it was tough. And I was just kind of shocked. I was like, wow, did that really just happen? I was kind of embarrassed because that's just not me. But I kind of took the rest of the day, and I was thinking a lot about what had happened, and I was dealing with a lot of things, like a lot of emotions, anger being probably the biggest one. But I mean, there were a lot of conversations that were had with my coaches about moving forward, what I was going to do in team finals, like what routines I was going to do, what events I was going to do. And then ultimately we stuck to the plan as far as what events I was going to do and stuff like that. We just made some minor tweaks to the routines. But those 2 days in between, or I guess 1 day in between, it was a stressful time. I was still dealing with a lot of the anger about what I had done, or the performance that I'd had. Really luckily for me, my dad was out there. My dad is the one that I always go to about everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, but especially the bad. He's kind of my rock. So I go to him for that. And he was actually there. So I got to see him and talk with him a little bit, and he kind of got my head screwed on straight again. And I mean, at the end of the day, it sucked. But what I had to realize and tell myself was that it was just 1 day of competition. That's not me. And I mean, I just needed to go out there and do what I knew I was capable of doing. And we made tweaks to the routine, my high bar routine, my horse routine, to make them a touch easier. And I mean, I knew, talking to my coaches, I was like, if we make these tweaks, I'm 100% confident that I can hit. There's no doubt in my mind that I'll be able to do it, because I've done the work, I've put in the numbers. I was physically in the best shape of my life. And I was ready and able to do it. So that day in between, talking with my dad, we went back in the gym. I kind of reset some of my basics, my foundation, because I was feeling a little bit off on some things. So reset that, got the work done, and then going forward from there, it was just go out there and do what I've been doing. So I'm a very big proponent of just having a short memory. Even in a competition. So if I mess up an event, the only thing I think about is my next event. Like there's no need to think about what has happened in the past because you can't change it. So that was kind of my mindset going into it. Just forget about day one. There's nothing I can do to go back and fix that. No matter how angry or embarrassed or whatever emotions I was feeling, I still had a job to do. So forget about that, put it behind, and then focus on what I had to do. And then I was able to kind of get my mindset right. And going into that competition, I mean, we hit 18 for 18 routines, which, I mean, as you know, is really hard to do. And like I said before, that was one of the reasons that was the most fun competition that I've ever been a part of, because we were just on every single routine. I mean, there might have been minor mistakes in the routines, but we hit 18 for 18, 100% hit rate, which I don't think we've ever done as a national team. And to be able to do that in an Olympic team final, I mean, that's all you can ask for, you know?
Yeah, unbelievable, mate. Yeah, I always say one of those top teams, whether it's China, Japan, yourselves, GB, Russia, you hit 18, you're going to win a medal. Like, to do 18 under that pressure is just... And I always say that the team final for me is the most exciting to watch because there's the most on the line. Like, you have to try and put it out of your mind, and you have to lean on each other and rely on each other. But, you know, it's not just your dream on the line when you go and put your hand up. It's the four other guys next to you who have spent 15 years dreaming of this moment too. So for me, it's always the best event to watch. It means the most. And I think when you speak to anybody that's won a major championship medal at an Olympic Games or World Championships as a team, they always describe that as meaning maybe more than the individual medals that they've won, just because of that fact that for all of this to work, so much has to go right. What do you think you have to do now, Brody, as a team to go from bronze in 2024 to climb that ladder towards the gold medal in LA? Obviously, the Japanese and the Chinese are going to be incredibly strong. We don't know whether the Russian team will be back in some kind of fashion. GB as well, that at the moment have some of the best specialists in the world. There's gonna be some junior gymnasts in all of those teams that come up over the next few years. You know, for you, being one of the experienced guys now on the team, and also being that guy that's felt that top level, you've got gold medals at the World Championships against some of the best guys, not only in the sport, but, you know, to edge out Hashimoto in high bar finals. This guy is now being spoken about as potentially the second best all-arounder, you know, in the modern era, with winning 3 back-to-back, right? So what do you think your team has to do now to take that next step?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, and what we did in Paris was draw on our NCAA experience, because, like we were talking about before, NCAA is all about team. There's no individual. And that, I think, is an advantage that we have as a country that we absolutely have to use. I mean, like I said before, I felt more like when I was in Tokyo, I felt more pressure competing at an NCAA's than I did at the Olympic Games. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of really good juniors coming up, and especially in the U.S., from what I've been seeing, we do a lot of junior, senior joint national team camps. And man, I tell you what, these kids are insane. And a lot of them are making their way into the NCAA. And I know that they're only going to get better once they go through those programs and get used to competing for a team, because it is very different. And a lot of gymnasts here especially here, I feel like don't really have a background in team sports. Most of them, I feel like, not all of them, but most of them have basically only done gymnastics. So to be able to reframe your mindset from me to team is going to be a really crucial factor for us. And I mean, I think that, and then on top of that, we just got to keep pushing our difficulty. I don't know. I haven't looked at what our difficulty scores were at the individual worlds. It's probably not a true comparison, especially since they changed the code again. uh, but I mean, we have to be able to push the difficulty. That's the thing that was our goal as a team and the last quad, because we were so far behind. And the thing about China, Japan, and even Russia, if they're going to be back in the picture, they have crazy good difficulty, but they do it really well. So we can't be the team that just goes for the execution score. We have to be throwing the big skills, um, and big routines, and then use this next 3 years to start cleaning that up. So build big now, and don't be afraid to be sloppy, but use the next years to clean up. And then I think if we do that, especially with the 8 skill routines, I think that brings the competition a lot closer and gives us a lot better chance. So I think all of those factors, if we're able to capitalize on those, I think we'll have a good shot at winning gold.
What do you do as like a team leader going into that Olympic Games, Brody? So another 3 years' time, right? You're going to be 27, 28. The reality is America is bigger, better, shinier, louder. So when you're going into that Olympics, all of the media and the attention and spotlight you guys are going to have is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And all that the people want and the crowd wants in the amphitheater is a gold, right? So what role do you play in keeping everybody very level-headed and trying to explain to the other guys, this is a trick and an illusion, don't listen to it, focus on your work?
Absolutely. And that has been one of my biggest things. And I think I kind of got Tokyo was a weird Olympics because of COVID, but I think I had my Tokyo Olympics was actually really good. I think I only missed one routine, but I think it was kind of good. We didn't stay in the village, so I didn't get all that aspect. And then, I mean, competing in an empty arena is just a different experience. And to be honest, like we as men's gymnasts in the U.S., all of our national competitions, we don't really get big crowds or anything like that. So whenever we compete in front of a big crowd, it's always very different for us. Typically, it's only Olympic trials that we get a really big crowd. Um, but for me, the thing I always tell myself and that I tell other guys on the team is that it's just another competition. So, and that's kind of like a mindset that you have to tell yourself before you even get in there. Because if you get in there and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the Olympics or this is World Championships, like this is the biggest meet of my life, I have to do really well. That's when, going back to what I was talking about, that's when you start trying to be perfect and you change your gymnastics. But in truth, you have to remember that what got you to this point was the gymnastics, your gymnastics, and what you've done. So treating it as not the biggest competition of your life, and it's hard. It's really hard. I still find myself uh, sometimes when I'm at these competitions, like, oh man, like this is a big deal, you know. But you have to constantly bring yourself back down to, you know, I'm gonna go out there and do the same routine on high bar that I've been doing in the gym for the last however many years, you know, like I've trained for this. It's the same routine, whether I'm saluting to my coach in the gym or I'm saluting to the judges at the Olympic game. And that's the mindset you have to have. And that's something for me, like as one of the more experienced guys on the team, that's something that I have to offer to these younger guys that are coming up because they might not it's really easy when you're young to go to a competition and be like, oh my gosh, this is the biggest competition of my life. I have to do really good here, you know? So being able to bring them down and also being able to notice, like, as kind of being the team leader, like I know the guys really well because we've all gone through NCAA together and we've all been on national team for a long time. So I can kind of tell, like, based off their personalities and stuff, like, you know, I go up to them like, I can tell you're kind of, you know, getting in your head a little bit about this. It's important to understand it's just gymnastics. You're just going to go out there and do the same routines that you've been doing for the past however many years. Like that's it. And I think if you can really hone in on that kind of mindset, then that for me, I've been able to do that in the past. And that's what's helped me be really successful because it takes that level of stress and anxiety down. So when you're put in a high pressure situation, you make it as low pressure as possible. Even though it is high pressure, you make it as low pressure on yourself as possible. And then that is how you're able to hit routines.
Yeah, it's really interesting, mate. I mean, that is, it's just that old problem, isn't it, of being in that situation and having to lie to yourself because you know this is actually the biggest event of my life. Like I know that it is, but I have to trick myself into thinking it's just a routine, and it is, right? It's the same piece of equipment. You just got to do that routine. But that, I guess, is what makes sport so interesting, right? To watch. It's that psychological side of it, and who can handle that pressure. And I remember really having a difficult time post the Olympics in 2012 because I fell in the team final. And I remember a few years later realizing that, right, the greatest gymnast of all time is Kohei Uchimura. And he's fell half a dozen times at the Olympic Games, and he's the greatest ever. So in my head, somehow that made it okay. I was like, well, if he's the best of all time, and he's fell like a number of times at the Olympics, then maybe it's okay, right? And I started it, I think, on the process of forget everybody else, do your job, focus on what you can control, which is exactly what you said throughout the whole of this interview, mate. And it's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Just to finish, Brody, please, just it was such an incredible high bar final. I think, as a gymnastics fan, we had to struggle through the high bar final in Paris, which just was, it just didn't turn out to be the final that everybody had hoped it would be. And, there was so many falls, and in the end, it was whoever held onto the bar, and I'm sure you were very, very frustrated watching that final. But
I haven't even watched it.
Yeah, and look, that's the way high bar goes sometimes. But the final that we witnessed out in Indonesia was one of the highest levels of high bar work I think I've ever seen. And you went out there first up. Just take me through the routine, mate, and what it felt like. And obviously, you're going into that routine not knowing potentially whether they're going to count your Winkler or not. They do. You do an incredible routine. You put up a huge score. Just tell me about the routine, what it felt like in that routine, because I think for people listening, they see someone like you perform a routine like that, and it looks so effortless and beautiful. But the reality is that so much work has to go into that puzzle to put all the pieces together for it to work perfectly. What was it like, mate?
Yeah, so, to be honest, the time in between prelims and the high bar final, very, very stressful because we were trying to figure out. I had a few different routines that I could do. I'd been training a triple pike dismount, which would have gotten like the dismount upgrade, I guess, but that's gone now. So I was trying to figure out after I didn't get credit, and I knew the one I did in prelims, the Winkler, that it wasn't going to get credit. But it was a really stressful time because I was like, do we risk it? Do I take it out completely and do a Zuli Min and then a triple pike dismount? Because that would have given me the same start value as doing the Winkler and the double double. And, in training all week, I think at the beginning, right after prelims, we decided I wasn't going to do Winkler because in my mind, I was like, there's no way they're going to give it credit again. So I was training triple pikes all week, and triple pike is still a pretty new skill for me. So I was kind of like, it was still a little up in the air. But ultimately what it came down to is the day before high bar finals, we decided, and I had been training Winklers and triple pikes all week. We decided that I was doing good Winklers in the training gym, and all the ones that I was doing were getting credit. And I was like, you know what, do it. I got to do it and I wanted to do the Winkler with the double double because my approach is, sticks are what win medals, especially in an event final like that, especially high bar. Like if you do a great routine but you don't stick, or you take big hops on the dismount, you're pretty much out. So I was way more confident in being able to stick or make a much better landing on the double double than I was for the triple pike. So I was like, you know what, I guess I gotta go a little bit risky here with the Winkler. But going into that routine, it was basically the way I go into every other routine. Is just I have my checkpoints for my skills, and then my mindset when I go into routine is basically full send. I just attack. So I knew once I did the Winkler, I was like, yeah, that probably got credit. Just attack the rest of the routine. And I was able to, both of my talks were to handstand, which I was very happy about. And then my Lucan was great. Might have been a touch far, little fingertip, I think. But after the first half, I know it's just a last half. Casina Coleman, quas dismount, and I was very, very confident in that last half. And, going through the routine, winding up for the dismount, really wanted to stick. I think I just cranked it a little too much, small hop back, but like a 1/10 hop back, I'll take any day. But yeah, going up first was kind of crazy. I don't think I've ever been up first in an event final like that. Which I liked it, but I didn't, because I liked it because, you don't watch anyone else go before you. You go up and you're like, okay, this is my routine. I'm just going to go and do what I can. Like, I can't control anything else. So I just go up, do my job. But then after that, you get to watch 7 more guys go, and it's so slow. I don't know why in these finals they take so long to get scores up. I don't get it. But yeah, watching 7 more guys go was very nerve wracking for sure, especially watching Daiki go. And I remember watching Daiki do his routine. I'm like, dang, this is really good. If he sticks a dismount, I think he's got me. And he goes, sticks, and then stands up, and then takes a step back. I'm like, oh my gosh, I might have it. And then yeah, seeing his score flash, I'm like, oh, God. I was just happy. But I knew there were other guys that were going that could beat me. But um, yeah, no, it was a phenomenal final, and like you said, there might have only been like 1 or 2 falls. Very, very competitive, and it reminds me of 2021 Worlds. So like the Olympic high bar final in Tokyo was terrible. It was basically whoever hit got a medal, and then Worlds that year was insanely competitive. I remember the first guy that went up, the score flashed, and it was like a 14.96, and I was like, oh, it's going to be that kind of final. And then I feel like it matched this year too, because Paris final was pretty tough, and then this final was pretty legit. So I I like the individual worlds, like I said before, because I mean, countries are sending their top guys on those events, not necessarily for a team competition. So I feel like it's always a bit more competitive, and it kind of makes it feel a little bit better when you do bring home a medal, because you're like, wow, there's the best of the best were there.
Yeah, I always find it really interesting when people give a very politically correct answer to what were you thinking while you were watching everyone else? I'm like, he was thinking, I hope he doesn't beat me. That's exactly what he was thinking.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant when you said that, mate, because I've been in that situation as well. And sometimes it works in your favor, right? You go up first and you set the standard, and then you straight away pile the pressure onto everybody else. And look, the next guys like Daiki, then Joe, and also the younger Japanese gymnast who did a great routine. I was watching his routine and I was like, oh, is he going to edge out Joe there for the bronze? And I think in the end, he maybe one of his tacks was slightly late, and then his quast, he kind of double gripped his quast, and I wondered whether that was it in the end. But just the level of high bar work, for you, mate, to be top of that podium, the Japanese, just great technicians on that apparatus, some of the best in the world, and the knowledge that they have. One thing that's really interesting with the Japanese, and maybe you guys you have that a little bit now with Sam Mikulak being part of the team in terms of the coaching team, is that they're so good at passing that knowledge on. Every generation just gets into coaching, and that's such an advantage that they have over there. It was just great to see you perform that routine, mate, and know the story, and what an incredible final. And I agree with you that I often say apparatus finals wise, other than the Olympic Games at the end of the cycle, and obviously sometimes it doesn't go that way, the individual worlds, it's so hard to individually win a medal at that, because you just get the best of the best on every apparatus, whereas there are more of the all-arounders and the team members that play a role in apparatus finals throughout the rest of the cycle. So yeah, absolutely incredible routine, mate. Yeah, brilliant. Like you said, to hold your nerve and to go for the Winkler and just be confident in straightening it out. I think, if I was ever in a situation like you were there, I would be the same. Having to go through that routine and be worried about the triple pike, it takes the focus off the rest of the routine. So, again, it sounds like you and your team are very good at making the strategic and logical decisions in a very emotional situation, and I think that separates the great athletes from the very best like yourself. So thanks so much, mate, for this. It's been absolutely brilliant. I spoke a little bit about before we went live about for me, the way people speak about somebody when they're not in the room says a lot about them. I was doing the BBC coverage in the UK with a guy called Matt Baker, and he was so excited that you won the world title on high bar. He was like, "Oh, I met him in Paris, and we met him after the competition. He was just a great guy. Like, I'm so glad he won that gold medal." And I said, "Oh, I think I'm going to interview him soon, so I'll tell him that." But no, mate, keep doing your thing. I'm really excited to follow your journey over the next few years, and hopefully me and Sam, we can get out to America and come and visit you guys over in Evo and just keep doing your thing, mate, and thank you so much for giving us your time. Brilliant, mate. What a conversation. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, mate. You take care.